Well, hello, everybody. It's episode 11. Is that right, or is it 12?
12.
Damn, it's
Big 12.
episode 12. We're just slowly but surely chugging along.
Yes. 1 week at a time, baby.
For real though, 1 week at a fucking time, dude. So
One.
this for everyone that's curious. Yes, this episode is going to be JFK assassination focused.
Oh, we're getting into it.
We're getting absolutely into
Not
it.
even spoiling, not even just ready. Yeah, so for those of you that by the time you hear this, you should have heard last week's episode. We just kind of went off on a tangent about some conspiracy theories and stuff. And we thought, you know what? What if we picked a topic that we kind of disagreed on and we had like a traditional kind of not debate, but we really looked into it together. Like we brought evidence to the table and we either tried to convince each other it is or it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And just like out of nowhere, we were like, okay, let's plan this episode. And in the meantime, in between last episode and this episode, a Secret Service agent who was in the car with JFK,
The car behind him.
or the car behind him, excuse me, all of a sudden comes out of the woodwork with this new book. And
88 years old.
so just like absolute coincidence, but it means that the universe is listening to us. Further
Yeah.
reassurance. So we'll
It
get
is.
into that.
It's
But
also been interesting to see how the media has received what he's been saying. Like I when I was looking into it to see from different sources, I was like, I wonder if like, for example, Fox News is going to be more gung ho to believe in what he's saying, opposed to like NBC or CNN. But it seemed pretty consensus. Like, and then I was listening to another video, and I didn't realize this, but I guess according to some, I would need to like we could probably watch that video and find the clip of what they're referring to. But
Mhm.
like most Americans don't agree with the Warren report. Like most
No,
Americans
not
don't.
at all.
And that's why the JFK conspiracy theory is like the goat of all conspiracy theories.
It's the OG. Like
Mhm.
it's kind of like it's the first one that really, from what I've read, made people question like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up. And we're getting
Yeah.
information we're getting from the government isn't really adding up. There's
Yeah.
definitely shady shit that happened before that, but JFK I think was the
This
first
is the
one.
one that rang the bell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll
This
get
one's
into that.
harder
I'm
to
super
ignore.
excited actually because if you listened to last episode when I was a kid, I had found a bunch of JFK books in the attic of a house that my dad was renting, and I was convinced. I was convinced that JFK was a CIA operative, and it was all a big
Or
conspiracy.
no, Harvey Oswald.
That's what I meant. Lee Harvey
Harvey
Oswald was a
Oswald.
big CIA
CIA
operative,
operative. Yeah.
and I was convinced. I was like, dude, it's a conspiracy. But I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I do anymore. So that's why we're here. But before we get into all that,
Hmm.
as always, got to check in with my boy. How you been and what you been up to, bro?
Dude, I'll keep it short and sweet. This week's been good. It's gone by super fast. I started my second fasting arc. So I did an initial fasting arc for 12 weeks where I only ate on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. It was tremendous. I had the 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 benefits I got from it, I will never be able to forget. It was literally life changing. And so now I still have more fat to lose. So I'm gonna do another. It's gonna be for sure be 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks of another fasting arc, and I'm only gonna be eating on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And after doing it the first time, I think those are better eating days for me and my schedule. So I've been doing that. So as we're talking right now, I have not eaten food for 50 hours. Yeah, 50
Oh
hours.
shit, you're already 2 days in.
Well, I started on Sunday, so I already did like a 60 plus hour fast this week. And
This
so
would
now
be
I'm on the second leg of it. I'm in
from
the
your
first
Tuesday
week
meal.
of the first leg. So I'll get to eat tomorrow at like 11. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, man, I've just been doing that. And then for those of you who don't know, I don't play a lot of video games, but there is a video game that I will always play for the rest of my life, and it's called fucking Pokemon. I love Pokemon. I love that game. And they dropped basically the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out like a year ago, and then they dropped some DLC that came out this week. So I've been playing that. So just a lot of that, man. A lot of fasting, a lot of Pokemon, a lot of creating, a lot of just working as well. So yeah,
Some
man. That's been
nice
my week.
long hard DLC got dropped.
Yeah, and it's cool. I really like the featured Pokemon in it is fucking super sick. So
Oh, so when they
that's
drop
cool.
a DLC, you get new Pokemon?
Yeah, so like there's like a new like legendary Pokemon in the DLC, and then the DLC has another pack of it that comes out in December, and it's going to be another storyline, and that's how they did Sword and Shield too. So
Oh, that's pretty cold, actually.
it's just cool. It's cool to play, and like I love the competitive game of Pokemon too. It's a lot like chess. It's like chess with a lot more factors because it's all
It's
just
turn-based gaming.
It's
yeah.
just turn-based game. It's kind of hard.
Did you even try to get your hands on the Pokemon Santa Cruz skateboards?
No, but it'd be cool to have one of those hanging up though.
Well, now they're going absolutely hammer. All the gold ones are starting at like 1,500. There's like a gold Gyarados on eBay for like $8,000 right now.
Yeah, that would be fucking sick.
Yeah, which is
That'd be
hey,
sick.
you better not be tired, bro. We got some shit to get into.
Oh, I'm not tired. I'm just it was low on oxygen.
Okay. That's good, dude. I'm stoked. I didn't know a new Pokemon DLC dropped. The only game that I am like really dying to play and want to play is the new Armored Core game, but I just am not that good at super hard video games anymore. And the company that made that video game, I played another video game by them that was so hard I quit like in the first 3 hours.
God damn.
So I just don't know if I'm willing to subject myself to that right now.
Yeah, I really don't play any video games, and it's really because of the time commitment. But Pokemon, it's like it's different. Like
I'm still getting my Gran
just
Turismo
different.
races in. I was
Really?
banned for a week from Gran
Yeah,
Turismo.
oh yeah, of course, rightfully so. They had to lock you up.
Yeah.
They
For
had
those
to.
of you that have been keeping up, I'm good now. I'm in good graces with the Gran Turismo gods, but there was a week where I was completely unable to play Gran Turismo.
That's so funny still. That's still
yeah.
so funny to me. But how was your week? What's going on?
Oh man, it's been good. You know, it's been hectic. A lot of work stuff, just personal stuff. But my guiding light, my shining light, I played like 3.5 hours of the most competitive pickleball I've ever played on Saturday morning. And
It's
that's
like some pros, or what made it so
actually a
competitive?
professional. Yes, definitely. There was a dude that is a professional pickleball player there. Well, one of the guys we played against, I play at a place that it's an indoor place, and one of the courts is a strictly challenge court. So if you win, you stay, like no questions asked. And when we got there, there was a mixed couple. That sounds like a racial term, but that's in pickleball. It just means there's a guy and a girl. And they had actually just won what they call like a golden ticket tournament or a golden tournament. So they won at 4.5, which is like pretty good.
Really good, really good.
They won. So we get on the court. We lost like 11-9. And my buddy that I play with he's decent. He's like really good. And he was like pissed. So he's like, we got to show out. So we get back on the court. They're still on. We beat them first game. Then this dude walks on who's a professional pickleball player. Like he's like actually sponsored. Like he gets paid to play pickleball. Him and his partner, and we beat them twice. So like I was playing out of my fucking mind. So that was rewarding, you know, just to play at it.
Oh, for sure, bro. Because like the speed of that game is
Oh
so
my God,
different.
dude. Just the way this dude drives, the way this dude was driving the ball, I stopped blocking him because I thought he was going to break my paddle. It was hands down the most powerful pickleball I've ever seen played.
Wow. So how did you deal with those really fast drives?
Well, you just have to do everything preventatively, right? Like just make sure that all your dinks are super low, like hit absolutely unattackable balls. Because he was like any margin that he could speed one up over the net, he would. And he was like a two-handed backhand guy, just like, and he was built too. He had a little bit of a lisp.
That's fucking tight though, dude. That must have been really satisfying to play.
Oh, for sure. For
It's
sure.
super satisfying. Because I play pickleball at a different place I normally don't play pickleball at, and my friend Vince, who plays a lot of pickleball, who's definitely better than me, but I got to play against him, and which was cool because, like the homie he's like friends with when I pulled up there is like a ex-professional pickleball player, and so like they like play pickleball with each other. So I know Vince is like, he's not like on that tier,
no
obviously,
slouch.
but yeah, exactly, he can fucking play, right? So.
How
so
are
I was
you
playing-
already an ex-pickleball player? I feel like pickleball's still so new and so growing.
And
Like,
was crazy in this gym. There's like pickleball tournament banners from like 2019, like all over. Like it's like I'm like, oh my God, like the culture.
2019, yeah. I mean,
It's like, so like this guy's older, so maybe he just like is like did it for a while and then just fucking backed out, and then now he's just always there. But this place had like 15, 16 courts. It was huge.
is it that new place in Tempe?
It's not in Tempe. No, no. The place at Arizona Mills Mall is trash. They
Is it
didn't.
garbage?
Well, no, it's because the floors aren't correct. They just put a lining on the floors of
They
like to
didn't
make it
actually
out.
pour.
Yeah, exactly. So like the one in Gilbert that I go to and the one in Chandler is like real, like very real. And like they have 4 courts at the Chandler one that are like for like the pro courts, like, and then they have one court where like you technically shouldn't play on it if you're not 4.5 or higher or some shit like that, whatever. Jeez. And I could see the people. We were right next to that court, and I saw people playing on there. And the speed in which they're playing at, and like the shots that they were fucking getting off was like, like whoa, like like I like for real, like whoa. But when I was playing Vince, it definitely boosted my confidence because Vince came up to me and he was like he gave me like some real props, so like I know like I'm never hitting the ball high. I'm never hitting the ball out of bounds. Like everything's low. It's like I have a pretty like I'm like playing like I'm playing the right way.
And see how much you've improved since the 2 months now that you and I have played together.
Oh, I've improved greatly because no offense to Alex Salem, but like before then I felt like Alex was better than me. We're not,
and now
not
you're just
close.
Absolutely deep dicking him.
No offense, Alex, but I don't think we're close.
All the offense, Alex. Get your shit together and get on the pickleball court, my boy.
Yeah, because I don't think
we have millions of people hearing this right now, and they're hearing your name associated with absolutely trash pickleball playing. So
yeah. You gotta step it up. He needs to calm down. Is what he needs to do. He gets way too excited when he plays.
Oh, you have to just be so.
He has to calm down.
You have to be as slow and as peaceful as possible.
It's so true though. Like for real. Like that's so much of the game.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad to hear you're playing though. So.
Yeah, dude. So I think you having the background of the childhood exposure to JFK is really interesting because for me, for some reason I'm a conspiracy guy, but the JFK one never grabbed me. For some reason, I was like, oh, maybe it's a conspiracy, maybe it's not. It never grabbed me like it's grabbed so many people. I'm more of like some other conspiracies that I don't want to talk about right now.
Yeah.
But
different episodes.
Yeah, different episode. So, what I think is this. I think with all the information that you know, I think you should paint your picture.
Okay. I think that's great. I think that, like you said, there is so many angles and so many aspects of this that the things that I think we should absolutely focus on, it's kind of like the smoking gun, like, that term, is the magic bullet theory, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
The magic bullet. Mm-hmm. And there's a really, really big controversy over these photographs that were found. So let's kind of back.
And I'm completely in the dark on that one, so I'm really interested to hear what you have to say.
So that one
and how I react to it.
That one will kind of save because for me, like when I was going through all of it and all the stuff I've heard about it, once I saw the photos and then I saw like a couple professionals, and including the Smithsonian, like put their take on the photographs, I was like, oh well, this is very simple to see. So let's kind of start from the beginning. So Lee Harvey Oswald worked at this building called the School Book Depository. And
he had just actually gotten hired there.
Just gotten
like
hired
a month
there.
before, right?
A month before, and this is in Texas.
Yeah.
He had just gotten hired a month before. Now, I did like a ton of research on like how he got the job or how it came about. It turns out that a neighbor in his neighborhood worked there, had gotten hired there, and his wife had spoken to the neighbor's wife and said, hey, is there any job openings? So the neighbor kind of vouched for him, and he got a job there. Bada bing, bada boom, right? Mm-hmm. So he works at this building called the School Book Depository. It's 6 floors. Mm-hmm. There's 2 elevators. Like none of this is really that important, but what is important is this is where the shot that killed JFK came from. Okay. The day before, and this I thought was very interesting. So Monday through Friday, Lee Harvey Oswald would stay at an apartment actually closer in downtown to be closer to work. He didn't commute. He lived in the suburbs. He didn't commute back and forth every day. He would ride along with a friend on Monday morning, and then he would ride back home on Friday afternoon, Monday morning to Friday afternoon. He would stay in this apartment down, closer to work. So the morning of, he shows up. Let me back up. The day before, he tells the guy that he usually commutes with or carpools with, hey, take me back home with you today. I got to grab some stuff. And the guy's like, oh, what do you got to grab? He's like, I need to grab curtain rods for the apartment down here, for the downtown apartment. So he goes home Thursday night, which he never does. He always stays in downtown near his work Monday through Friday. So he tells his buddy, okay, pick me up Friday morning. I'm going to go back with you, obviously, for work on Friday. Friday is the day that John F. Kennedy was killed. So Friday morning, his buddy picks him up from his house and says, oh, what's your package? He goes, hey, remember I told you it's the curtain rods that I got to bring for the apartment. He's like, cool. So they go to work. Now, this is where it gets weird, is that there are multiple testimonies of people that saw Lee Harvey Oswald the morning of the shooting. Some people say he had a package in his hand. Some people say, I don't recall seeing him with a package, right? So the shooting takes place, okay? John F. Kennedy's dead. And after the investigation, they investigate Lee Harvey Oswald's house with his wife there. And she says, yes, Lee Harvey Oswald has a gun. And it's in the garage. It's under this blanket. It's always wrapped in this blanket. It's always in the same spot. They go and they...
How did they know to investigate Lee Harvey Oswald like that?
Well, this was after he had already ran and shot at the police and this was deep into the investigation.
Shit popped off.
Correct.
And he got arrested at the theater and shit.
Exactly. So this is deeper into the investigation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
His wife says, yeah, of course we have a gun. He has a gun. It's in the garage and it's wrapped in this blanket. It's where it always is. Sure enough, they open the blanket. There's no gun, but there is curtain rods. So knowing all that, now this is the reason I say all of that is because I don't think that the magic bullet theory and the multiple shooters theory is that complicated. I think that's part of the allure of the conspiracy theory is that, oh, there's multiple shooters and there's this or there's this magic bullet. So we have evidence that Lee Harvey Oswald made a pit stop at home that he never does. We have evidence that he owned a rifle, which we'll get into later. And we have evidence that he was seen carrying a package to work the morning that JFK was shot. He also
and he had been crazy most of his life, and he was visited by the FBI like a month before he even got in trouble with this too. So this guy was a nut, and he tried to join the military when he was super young, and they didn't let him in. Then I think he actually got in or some shit like that too.
When he has, well, I don't even want to go off on those tangents.
This guy has a very interesting background. He had a very traumatized life.
For sure.
He was a fucking devout Marxist at like the age of like 17 or something. Like this guy is like a very weird person.
So all of that is important, but I'm trying to kind of focus on the scope of this magic bullet thing for now because, like you said, there's just so much out there that we could just...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's evidence that there was a gun in his garage at one point. The gun was no longer there. He was seen with a package. He confirmed, the guy that drove him to work that day confirmed he had a package that he was told were curtain rods. And so the shooting takes place. Okay. So now the theory, for those of you that aren't familiar, John F. Kennedy was driving in a Lincoln Continental limo. And it was an extended wheelbase Lincoln Continental that had a driver's seat, 2 what they called jump seats, which were installed later, and the rear seat, which was a bench seat. So John F. Kennedy was sitting in the back. In the second row, almost directly in front of him, and this is important, almost directly in front of him was Governor Connolly, the Texas governor at that point, and then another row. So they're driving, and we'll get into how he knew the route and all that stuff later. So they're driving past the school book depository where Lee Harvey Oswald was working on the day of the shooting and seen with his package and working on the 6th floor. John F. Kennedy gets shot, and it hits him through the back of the neck.
Correct.
So the conspiracy is if you were to line up John F. Kennedy and Governor Connolly straight on, the bullet wounds that John F. Kennedy, what is the word I'm looking for? Suffered, and the way the bullet traveled into Governor Connolly, who was sitting in front of him, the bullet would have had to fly directly through John F. Kennedy, make a dip down, fly through the back of Governor Connolly, then fly like to the left to hit his wrist and down, and like right, like that's the general synopsis of the magic bullet theory.
Yeah, I'll wait. You keep on painting the picture, then I'll bring any evidence that I've seen that makes me very interested to be skeptical, I guess.
Okay, so the theory is that if you were to line up where Lee Harvey Oswald was, or allegedly was, at the time of the shooting, and where the car was, and where the two men, John F. Kennedy and Governor Connolly, were positioned in the car, one bullet could not do that much damage or cause those injuries. Would you say that's a pretty accurate kind of description of the...
I would say another huge factor of the magic bullet as well is the pristine condition that it was left in after traveling through two bodies in a chair, and after it fractured his wrist as well, because knowing how bullets behave when touched, really whenever they hit anything, is they definitely contort. And so the condition of the magic bullet is really interesting because it's very pristine, right? It's a very pristine bullet. And then where the bullet was found as well is also another really interesting thing.
So
it's like that's where it gets, this is where it starts to get very weird. Like very, very weird in my opinion.
So this is why I think it's important to go one step at a time. So the reason why I think the magic bullet theory is absolute bullshit is because there's a very important distinction when a lot of people are modeling or like recreating this scenario. The car that they were in, the middle row where Governor Connolly was sitting, was what they called a jump seat. So it was like a smaller seat that could fold very easily. It wasn't a regular car seat. So if you actually look at the footage, which we'll include for you guys, the governor is actually sitting lower, about 4 inches lower than John F. Kennedy, and he's actually sitting a few inches in. So when this magic bullet theory was originally like conceived, it was based on John F. Kennedy and Governor Connolly sitting directly in front of each other, right? So the angle of the bullet coming in to hit two people that were sitting directly in front of each other, the bullet would have had to do all this crazy stuff. But what most people have debunked, and I included a picture of the inside of the car for you to see, is that the seating position isn't actually straight on. It's not dead on. It's not dead straight.
Yeah.
So if you were to actually take a line, right, with minor movements, because that's what a bullet does, even when it hits water, right, it's going to change direction slightly, you could actually draw a line directly from the back of John F. Kennedy's neck through Governor Connolly's back, right below his shoulder, and into his knee. So like,
or his wrist, right?
Well, through his wrist into his knee. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So you're assuming that, a gunshot goes off or something hits him, or even if he just had his hand on his thigh, right? Like, so again, this is where I started.
To be honest, I haven't seen any evidence that refutes the impossibility of the shot. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen any strong evidence that indicates that is skeptical.
Okay, so there's been tons of evidence done and tons of experiments done, on like ballistics gel, which is like pretty good. I mean, that's what they test weapons on, like military grade weapons, on ballistics dummies. And the bullet and the type of bullet that they used has been shot through multiple dummies and come out completely clean on the other side. So yes, certain bullets and some bullets do warp and contort and become shrapnel and things like that. But the type of bullet that was used from that rifle has been proven countless times since then that it could essentially pass through two human beings and be completely unscathed.
So what I would argue is this, and this is based on pure skepticism.
Okay.
If the bullet violently changed directions while traveling inside of Governor Connolly's body, and it still maintained its pristineness, that's what's really interesting to me.
Well, but
is that it maintained its pristineness while going from his went through like his chest area, right, and then it came out his wrist. Yeah.
Well, that's the important part, is that if you actually line up the seats in the car and you line up where it didn't change direction dramatically.
Well, it would have had to, because it went through his chest and then went to his wrist, right?
Well, the way it hit his
wrist was down.
That's what I'm saying. The way it hit his wrist.
So you're saying it went like perfectly like through like that, like that.
I wouldn't say that dramatically of an angle because it came through like
So
essentially.
then it was incredibly steep, is what you're saying.
I don't think it was as steep as you're making it seem. Actually, I think
Well,
that.
because it would have had to. Because if it went through his chest and then it hit his wrist, wouldn't it
I
have
mean,
to be like at least an angle from like here to there? Like if you just sit right here and you put your hand on your knee,
yeah.
right? It has to drop, so it has to be coming at a really sharp angle like this, right? That's what it would have to do. Like you're sitting right here.
I
So if
don't.
it goes out to your chest,
Yeah.
and so it comes out like a nice, almost like a 45
Well,
degree angle.
put
but
your right
like,
hand-
so you're coming up from the top.
Put your right hand on your left knee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your right hand on your left knee. Now look at your shoulder come forward. So now.
Yeah.
think
So,
about-
but it's still, but still pretty like steep though, right?
But could you conceivably see that from? Forget everything beforehand. That a bullet could come from.
I have no problem with the shot. What I'm saying is just, and I see what you're saying, but what I've also seen as well is that we've also come to recognize that bullets behave very weirdly in general once they go through. So there's inconsistencies on both sides. I feel whether or not the bullet should be more deformed or whether it's okay that it's like super pristine. And so the fact that it traveled through two people and a chair and just hit what it hit. And once again, I with the aspect of the bullet and its pristineness and the shot that was taken, like if I was a part of a jury, I'm inconclusive. I don't think
Really?
I would say I don't feel good claiming one direction or the other pertaining to that in the sense of like that was the bullet that did all of that. And then once you combine that with what's really just the most interesting evidence regarding the magic bullet to come out literally since the Warren Report in 1964 is what that Secret Service agent experienced in his book, right? And how you want to take that is how you can take it. But nonetheless, it's like, once again, it becomes more inconclusive in my opinion because of like it's hard to 100% believe this man, but it's very fucking weird. So basically, for people who don't know, this Secret Service agent said that when he got over to the car when the madness is happening, right after like the president finally, or he didn't get up, but he was fucking dead. But once he got up with the first lady, right? That's when he noticed the bullet, the magic bullet, on the back of like the wind, like of the seat of the car. That's where he found it, right?
That's where
he grabs it.
He found it.
That's where I say he's saying he found it. He puts it in his pocket. They go to the hospital, and he's one of the only two people that are not medical professionals inside the hospital room with Jackie Kennedy. And as he's inside of there, he grabs the bullet and he puts it on the foot of John F. Kennedy's like thing. And the reason why this is such a big deal is that now this bullet is no longer found on the gurney of Governor Connolly.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be the bullet that traveled through him. And so if we look at the video, you'll see in the video that the way initially how JFK reacts is like he grabs his throat, right? Mm-hmm. And then like Jackie Kennedy like she doesn't know what the fuck's happening at this point. Like, she like just brushes his neck. And so it's like that is when things get really weird in my opinion. Like if that bullet was really found, like if this guy's really telling the truth, then that's it kind of right there, right? In terms of the magic bullet theory, if he's telling the truth though. Well, and so it becomes like with him bringing that story, it's a story. So it's like
why
it's not a
so
fact.
I guess maybe we're kind of arguing two different points here or discussing two different points because what I'm trying to show is that it is very possible for this bullet to make all 4 or 5 holes or whatever it made in a fairly straight line. And
do you have any like good like quick evidence we can look? If you don't, it's fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you, put it up right here. Okay. So let me know when you can see this.
It's loading now. Okay.
So this is the actual photo. This is an actual photo from the day of the shooting. Do you see how much lower the governor is sitting than John F. Kennedy? Like, do you see how, if you follow this body line, do you see how
Yeah.
much higher his shoulder is than his?
Yeah, I have no problem with this.
Okay. So if you look at this, which is a 3D modeling of it, right? Look at this angle. Look at where that shoulder is. And if we just follow that line, we're hitting knee, bro. Like, do you see, if we follow this red line, we're going
No,
shoulder.
that's very possible,
Right?
But there could be. But that's very possible. The interesting what I still allude to as like I think a lot of people, it's not just me, most people think it's fucking weird, is how pristine the bullet is considering how many people it traveled through. And then two, if that bullet was found on the back ledge of that seat, then that means that the second shot was fired in way quicker succession that would have been possible from the gun that Lee Harvey Oswald shot from.
Correct.
And so that would mean there would need to be another shooter that shoots Governor Colony right after this bullet goes off. And so that's the interesting part of this, is if that's true.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But so finding the bullet on the back seat, if we agree that all of the wounds that were confirmed from Governor Connolly and John F. Kennedy, if those all line up in a straight line,
They're
not.
probably shooting from the same direction, though. It would make sense, though.
So you think
because
you think there might have been a second person in the same building?
It easily could have been. Because so once, that's where it gets really tricky, is like once we say there's a second gunman, it's like,
because
who
the popular
knows where
theory is
that-
the grassy knoll, right? Which is the other side of the.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I think so once again, I stand in total on the magic bullet as it stands right now. I don't believe 100% that there was a second gunman, and I don't believe 100% that the Warren report was 100% accurate when it came out. That's where and that shocked me, because I thought I'd be like, 100% magic bullet is bullshit. Hell no. But once I looked into it enough, I was like, it's like if you told me, oh no, like if I died and I talked to some elder spirit and I asked it, was the magic bullet theory true? And it's like, believe it or not, it was. That bullet, it was just that bullet.
You'd be like,
that
you were cool with that?
And I'd be like, damn, okay. But then if you also told me, oh, no, that Secret Service guy was telling the truth. He did find that bullet on that backhand seat, and there was a second shooter. Like, there was a second shooter. Then I would also be like, well, damn.
Because finding the
also
bullet on the
makes
back
sense.
seat means that a bullet came from a different direction, right? Is that what the significance is?
So basically, is that with that type of bullet from that gun, is that sometimes when those bullets have a low charge, they don't do the same level of velocity and damage. And so they think it could have gone, like, shot through him, and then like went in like some weird shit, like it was like in the general area in his throat, and then like through the commotion like of getting shot again and fucking everything that's happening. They think that what actually happened, this is the real theory, is that the bullet actually fell out of him and it went onto
Out of
John
JFK.
Exactly, onto Jackie Kennedy's clothes, and when she reached back to grab his head, that's how the bullet got back to the back of the car again. Because that's and I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying so that's how it happens, is that she got the bullet onto her clothes because it had a low charge. It was fucking, I guess that can happen. And then she reaches back to grab his head. The bullet
turns over, the bullet goes onto the back.
Yeah, and it's like a whole fucking mess. And then another problem was too, is that I've seen consistently this being reported as well, is that the scene was not properly secured at all.
Not at all.
So to your point, right? It's like, okay, the bullet was found there, and it's like it was in the same car. It's not like Governor Connolly was in a different car.
Yeah.
So what if the bullet totally went through? That was the bullet that went through Connolly,
And ricocheted
someone
off
just
the
put
center.
it there.
Yeah, ricocheted off.
And who's to say that this Secret Service agent was the last and only person to touch the bullet after it was fired?
Well, there's actually it's called bullet. I think it's number 399, that was like the item of evidence. Number 399. I have a photo of the bullet I can share for everybody. If you look at the record of how many hands that this bullet went through before it finally got to a like forensics analyst is insane. It got handed off to like 5 or 6 people before it was finally cataloged, which I think is a little weird. However,
it is weird.
I mean, dude, I don't want to say back then, but even 60 years ago, like, I think everything was just a little looser. Like, I don't know if all police work was as...
Yeah, exactly.
You know
it
what I mean?
wasn't.
Exactly.
It wasn't.
I don't think they knew.
100%. I'll interrupt you with this because I think this is a good segue point. Another thing to touch on, just for pure acknowledgement, is why still to this day, even from I think it was called like the 92 Kennedy Act or something, where they're supposed to have all of these documents regarding the Kennedy assassination publicly declassified by 2017. Thousands to this day are still declassified. And so it brings up this question: why, if the Warren report is true, right? No, there's no conspiracy whatsoever. Whether it's the CIA, the mafia, none of that. It's just straight up. It was just Lee Harvey. That guy, one man, one gun. He said, "What's up?" Why are we still holding on to thousands of documents for this long? It's not relevant anymore. If you're saying, for national security, it happened 60 years ago.
Yeah.
What could be relevant from that time period that they're still unwilling to show in 2023?
That's interesting, actually, that you say that.
Because it's supposed to be a straightforward story according to the Warren report. It's like, no. Lee Harvey Oswald was a fucking nut. He shot him, and that's what happened. Okay. And then in the 90s, they come up with that Kennedy Act, and in 2017
they say, you got 25 years left.
Yeah, and they still have not come through.
This I think is very important because I'm actually willing to buy that. Like, that actually intrigues me enough to think. My opinion on this, as most things, is so fluid in the sense that, like, I was sold, bro. From the time I was in 8th grade, I was sold. I was like,
that's a good point.
JFK was killed by the government. Then recently I was like, I don't know, man. I watched like hours and hours of documentaries on different aspects, and I think it might have just been a guy with a gun that did his thing. But I mean, that is making me willing to hear otherwise. Like, you are right. Like, if it was like the Warren Committee, right? There's the ones who did the Warren report or Warren Commission or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if their information was accurate and you stood by it, why do we have classified documents from 60 years ago? Yeah. And what technology or what are you hiding that even could be used against national security now? Like, what? I mean, I guess we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. And then there's Congress also investigated this as well extensively, and they had a report that came out as well. I think it was called like the Church Report or some shit like that. And in that, they alluded to their conclusion was conspiracy. Like, in the sense of, like, it wasn't just one person. It could have been the mafia. It could have been the CIA. It could have been a lot of different things. And so it is very interesting that is the case. Because, like you say, it's like, if it's just that black and white, why is it like it happened 60 years ago? Like, it's okay.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, here's the thing, though, is that we have to always at least have boundaries, right? We have to say, like, because, the average conspiracy theorist nowadays, right, the tinfoil hat wearer, it doesn't matter what committee it was, it doesn't matter who, whatever, this, that, and the other, like, there's a certain level of distrust. So we do have to have our boundaries where we say, like, okay, we trust this company, or we trust this report, or we trust this or trust that. Like, there has to be an end of the line where we can't just say, okay, well, what about this? What about this? You know what I mean? Like, there has to be a point where we're like, okay, I trust what that person is saying, right? Because then there's just no end in sight.
And that's where the Secret Service guy comes in, because that's a tough one. Secret Service. So it's like,
I mean, at 88 years old, Maybe he's just trying to go
Have
out
you
with a
watched
bang.
any videos of him talking?
I haven't yet. Like I said,
He does. I thought he was going to sound worse. He doesn't sound as bad as I thought.
what do you mean word?
And like I thought he was going to be like Joe Biden definitely has a harder time speaking.
Oh, yeah, like he's coherent at 88.
Yeah. So it's like listening to it, and he says like, "Hey, I believed in the Warren Commission. I didn't like." He was so traumatized into it that he didn't like even really look into the Warren report, like whatever. Like he believed it was just one shooter, and like that was that. Like he said that he almost fainted like in that fucking room with Jackie Kennedy before he put the bullet on that table because he was so overwhelmed. Like, because I can't even imagine like the what kind of psychology they look for out of these Secret Service agents in general, right? Because their whole
But he's got to
life
be
is
pretty
just,
mentally,
yeah, like they got to be sharp. They got to be like unrealistically loyal, like literally willing to jump in front of a bullet for the president. Like they probably vet that out too, and so to think of that, it's like, okay, like painting the picture of it, and you can believe it or you don't have to, but it's like, damn, maybe this guy just like he's getting old in age, and he's like, I just want to tell my story, and that's it. He's like, and from he's not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist with his take. He's like, I just want to tell my story. This is what happened with me. Okay, before I die, I want to get this out.
Quick side note,
So
I thought this was hilarious. Actually, it came up recently that the FBI and the CIA have are very partial to recruiting members of the Mormon Church. Do you know that?
really,
Something about LDS faith and Mormonism and sort of its roots and kind of how America fits into their puzzle. And I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to misrepresent anybody. But yeah, the CIA actually like having the LDS, which is the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, which is a Mormon church, on your kind of resume. The CIA loves that shit.
that's really interesting because I know Andrew Bustamante, former CIA agent, he's the one who actually brought up that point that I just brought up. And this guy's like, he always says it. He says, do not attribute to maleficence that could be attributed to ignorance. So he's like anti-conspiracy theory for the most part in the sense of like, hey, do you just not have all the details, or was it like an evil deed that was done? Like, what's going on? So he's the one who brought up that point, and when he said that, I was like, damn, that is a good point. Why are they still withholding this information for so long? If it's no longer, if it was what they said, like it's just fucking, it's just fishy. It's just what they do is like they make the public skeptical.
No, for sure.
For
That's
no
what it's
reason.
doing to me right now because
Yeah,
I was
it's like
I'm here ready to convince you that it's one guy, and now I'm like, I don't have an answer for that one. And
But with that being said, we could play devil's advocate, and maybe it's still one guy, but maybe they're hiding the fact of how they handled it. Maybe it's not the fact that there was another guy. Maybe they handled it so shit internally that it would bring so much shame to maybe some CIA officers that are still alive that they like. Maybe they're waiting for everyone to die that was a part of it, and then maybe they'll release it later on, or maybe they never really want to because they don't want the CIA painted in a light of incompetence. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it.
that's a great point, actually. So let's kind of take a beat here before we move on. So on the magic bullet theory, on the one bullet doing flips on the D, I don't buy it. I think that a majority of those wounds, if not all of the wounds that are known, could have been caused by one bullet in a straight line because based on the seating position in the car, and based on the type of rifle that was fired. I'm going to say magic bullet theory BS.
Yeah, okay. I would stand I like I already told you, I stand in the sense of like the bullet's trajectory, I'm okay with that idea. The bullet's pristineness and then the evidence of the Secret Service agent saying I don't know. I'm skeptical. I don't believe either way. I'm waiting for more evidence, honestly.
For those of you on this side,
and what's interesting is that a lot of people seem to, when I was looking into this, seem to like the magic bullet theory is people don't like that. Like they like in the sense of like they don't believe that bullet did what it did.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's an interesting one.
So one thing that I do want to bring up. So after this happened, right, Lee Harvey kind of went on the run. He had an altercation with a police officer. killed another police officer
Yes.
with a handgun, and then was caught in a movie theater, right? He fled into a movie theater. So the gun that was used, they found photographs of Lee Harvey Oswald posing with that gun in his own backyard, and they found these photographs on his camera that was supplied to the CIA by his, estate, by his wife, and when searching the property. So I want to show you these photos because this is a big, and I'm actually kind of stoked that you said you don't really even know this part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is such an interesting part of the whole conspiracy theory because it's, when building the case of this is BS, there's like, you need like layers, right? You need like a certain amount of bricks to convince me. So this is one of the big things that people like refuted, was that the photograph was doctored. So let me show you the photograph for those of you watching, for those of you that are just listening. The reason why this photograph is important, like I said, it is literally Lee Harvey Oswald posing with the exact gun and scope, which is important. The scope was kind of an accessory, right? He had to get a certain number of headshots for this. And he also has a revolver in his pocket, which was used to kill the police officer before running into the movie theater. So this photo of Lee Harvey Oswald was found on a camera that belonged to Lee Harvey Oswald and his wife. So most people are saying this is fake for two reasons, like the two biggest reasons. The biggest reason why people refute the photo is the shadows. If you look at this, the shadows it's kind of a elongated shadow, right? Which means the sun would be sort of setting, and you can kind of see the rest of the shadows from the staircase. But then when this first hit the scene, everyone's big, it's a conspiracy, was that the shadows are going directly down on his face, right? What they were saying was that the government had superimposed Lee Harvey Oswald's face on this photograph holding the gun, right? That they were trying to doctor evidence to link Lee Harvey Oswald to the gun. Does that make sense? Are you following?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So since then, there has been like hundreds and hundreds of people investigating this photo and modeling in this photo. So what they've done, like multiple people, they recreated the photo, right? They literally went to Lee Harvey Oswald's backyard at what they can estimate is a similar time of day based on the shadows. And you can see here that the shadows are almost identical, right? We get a nice long shadow behind the person, and we get a nice short downward shadow on the face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they also use 3D models, right? Which is even more precise. You can see it just as clear as day, right? Like the shadow is long, just like the photo. And if you look at the shadow on the face, it's the exact same in the photo, right? So like we have photographic evidence of Lee Harvey Oswald in possession of two guns that are identical to two guns that were used in the murder of JFK and the subsequent murder of the police officer. That aren't doctored, that have been proven to be real photographs.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't see any issue with this based upon the evidence that's been presented. I mean, yeah. I from everything that I put together, Lee Harvey Oswald for sure did it. Or for sure, in my opinion, was at least one of the gunmen. Like, you know what I mean? Was there one more? Who knows? But like, he was for sure one of them.
Okay, so that's where you're at. That you definitely think that he pulled the trigger, killed the president.
He for sure was firing fucking bullets at the president, and I think he was more than capable of making those shots.
Okay.
Based on, I think all of that's possible, 100%. I think the yardage, 100% possible.
Then I'm very curious to hear sort of where for you the conspiracy kind of starts and ends. And I want to give you the floor because I've been rambling, because those are my kind of two biggest things.
So what I know, yeah, I know for sure. And this is where I noticed, I was like, oh shit, I'm stepping into some crazy shit.
Okay.
Was basically, and let me pull up this document, reference some of the notes that I had. But basically, the things that I found along the way, in terms of like information, was one thing I thought was just generally interesting was the moment this went down, like Robert Kennedy Jr., the son who's now running for president, he said he was around his dad when the moment it was at home when his dad found out, when he was and around his dad when he was listening to his dad make 2 phone calls immediately, and he basically called the CIA people immediately and asked them immediately if they did this. He's like, "Was this our own people? Was this you guys?" Like off the bat. And so one doesn't really mean much, but what I'm saying is I think one, it's interesting that if that account is accurate and true, that the Attorney General at the time, Robert Kennedy, right, who later was assassinated, weird, right? Weird. And just that's all you can say is it's just weird, right?
Yeah.
Can't say it's enough to make any big point. But the fact that he immediately thought it was a CIA, right? Immediately thought it was a CIA. I thought that, like, this is where we start to get in more of, like, the interesting, like, weird coincidences, right? And then, like, another weird thing, Jack Ruby, this distraught nightclub owner, this random guy, basically, is the guy who shoots and kills Lee Harvey Oswald. Like, I'm not saying that was totally possible to happen, right? But it's like, of course, he dies before he ever goes to trial.
So that was
course.
that is one
It's
thing
just-
that has still very weird to me.
It's just weird. And then guess who also died before they went to trial after killing a president? John Wilkes Booth. The 2 only times we've ever had assassinations on a president, both people died before they ever went to
Successful
trial.
Assassinations.
Successful assassinations. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That's right. Successful assassinations.
Because someone did try to
'Cause I
kill
think-
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Robert E. Lee, right?
Oh, I don't. No. Someone tried to kill Ronald. Trying to shoot Ronald Reagan in public.
Yeah, exactly. Someone tried to shoot Ronald Reagan. Like, there's a couple of presidents that have been shot at. So, and once again, I am not saying that is evidence that, like, what I'm alluding to is that all of a sudden, like, there's like this picture that starts to get painted in my mind where, and like, I'd have to look more into this, but I didn't know, but apparently, like, I was hearing this from some places as well, that the mafia out there in Chicago, they were a big reason why JFK got elected.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so it's like you start thinking about it's 1960s. It's the 1960s. Like, like, what is actually going on, and what is actually happening? What could you get away with in the 60s? If you could kill if you could kill basically many people, go to jail, get locked up, and then escape out of prison and fly on a plane twice in the 80s or the late 70s when Ted Bundy did it, what kind of bullshit?
What could you have done 10 years ago?
What kind of bullshit could you be on in the 60s, right? Or the 50s, things like that. And so we start to understand this time period is very weird, like you were saying. Like, the police aren't, like, dialed in like maybe they are today. It's like there's so, like, the scene wasn't fucking settled immediately in terms of everything there. So there starts to become a lot of, like, just interesting surrounding information that builds this eeriness tone to the assassination of JFK. And now, once again, I'm not saying that is logical evidence to state that, oh my God, it had to be like something bigger than just what Lee Harvey Oswald wanted. I'm not stating that. But what I'm stating that is that combined with the evidence that I've been given creates the stench of inconclusiveness for me, where I'm like, damn, bro, I could easily, and then who else died around the same time? Fucking MLK. It's like, why in the same time period did all these prominent figures die? Did people just get a bug? Like, and they said, hey, I'm gonna fucking kill a public figure. Or was there something else going on? Like, in terms of, like, what was being played at. Right? It's a very tense time. It's Cold War, right? It's like very weird time for like political, like, environment, right? So I don't know, man. The whole thing, the more I looked into it, the more I realized how much I didn't know about how deep this might get.
Yeah.
And how weird it might actually be. But all in all, I personally stand inconclusive. That's what I would say.
Here's
I'm not
here's
sold
what
either
I
way.
will say. I think I may have taken a little too simplistic approach, because when we got on today, when we started recording this podcast today, I was like, dude, there's evidence of him there. There's evidence of him with the gun. There's evidence of him with the other gun. Like, yeah, this dude shot the president. Like, there's receipts of him using a fake name that he used on like other stuff to buy these guns. Like, it's that simple. But honestly, talking to you now, I'm like, well, yeah, all of that can still be true. And also, there could be a little more nefarious stuff going on.
There for sure could. That's where I stand, at least. From all the evidence that I have, I totally think Lee Harvey Oswald was there, shot the gun, fucking did the thing. He did the thing.
So the conspiracy
thing was done.
isn't that Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president. It's that he either acted alone or he acted with help of the government.
Exactly. And then that's where the magic bullet gets twined into it a little bit. And then that's where the evidence that the Secret Service agent just literally brought up gets intertwined into it. And then there's a lot of other surrounding evidence that requires much further explanation. Just because, like, once again, like we talked about in the beginning of this podcast, there are legitimate books on compiled evidence of one way or the other, like on both sides of the coin. Like, we could literally take a 1 semester long class probably at ASU called the JFK assassination, where we have to read like 20 books, and then we have to present our final essay at the end of the semester and what we think actually happened and where we stand with it.
Yeah, you could truly devote your entire life to investigating this.
Exactly. And that's where I started to get a little overwhelmed looking into it, because I was like, oh, this is not simple. Like, to say you 100% know, it's not simple. Like, there's a reason why the fucking, even, let's say the Warren Commission, like, is legit. It still took them a year to come out with that shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, a week later, it was that.
Here's what I will say. I'm never 100%. I'm not 100% sure we went to the moon, and that's a whole other thing. I'm never 100%.
Yeah.
I'm never 100% sure, because you just can't be.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But
100%.
I think I'm going to admit here that talking to you, I'm less sure than I was that Lee Harvey Oswald acted on his own.
Yeah, and that, yeah. And I mean, the thing is, for you, is that you've, like, changed your mind on this already
Twice.
once,
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it goes to show, like, this is something that you've obviously spent a lot of time processing and kind of, and I think you going back and forth is indicative of the unconclusive nature of it. Like, it just like, huh? Like, I don't know, man. This is just a weird thing. I need more info. Declassify all the shit.
That I think is the biggest point that
Just do it.
Yeah. Here's what I will say. I'm not trying to turn this into a lesson like I'm holier than thou, but it is so important to believe what you believe, but also be able to not. Like, also be able to never be 100%. Because I think that's where it gets dangerous, is when you are at 100, 110% believing this thing without any regard for any, disagreeing points. That's when trouble starts.
Yeah, I would agree, because that's a tough thing too, right? Is because we have to understand our brain is operating with bias every second that we're alive.
Yeah.
Right? So if you aren't integrating tools to challenge your bias, then you are going to continue to be biased. Right? And so, yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun to go do that, right? Because especially with algorithms nowadays, they actually don't want you to do that at all.
No.
Actually, the algorithms want you to just become, like, completely immersed in whatever topic that you're already in.
This is what you believe? Great. Just shut up and get more of it.
We're only showing you that now. You're going to believe it 10 times more.
Yeah.
Which is really dangerous on both sides, because I'm a big believer that, like, the truth is never, it's like the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Like, it has to be. Like, it's just like there's too much perspective for it not to be in the middle most of the time. So,
well, and we also experience reality so differently that there is no middle most of the time.
Yeah, exactly, right. And like, and then the way our realities are constructed through the way that our upbringing exists can really alter what we perceive as important to us, right? So, for example, I am not somebody who identifies as a Christian, God-fearing man, right? I just don't. So, with that being said, I am very clearly pro-choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can say that out loud. I don't, like, it's like, nah, bro, I thought about it. I'm pro-choice. Like, I just am. So it's like, there's nothing you could, like, I thought, like, you know what I mean? But for some people, based upon how they were raised to see the world,
Yeah.
right? They literally, they literally, like, they think, oh, I don't want to sound so, like, demeaning and say, they think it upsets them. But what I'm saying, what
They've
I
been
mean when I say
trained
something,
to be upset by this.
exactly, right? And so they literally, like, no. The way they view the world is they think this is wrong, like, really wrong, right? Where I don't see that way at all. So it's tough. It's like, what I'm alluding to is that I have a little bit of sympathy for you for breaking out of your biases, but at the same time, you got to challenge yourself.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like in, I think most communities and most places, once you're kind of, you know, once you're in that community and once you have people that agree with you and co-sign you, it's going to be very, very hard to break out.
Exactly,
Very
because then
hard.
you build a social identity and a social belonging with these people that all believe in one
And then
thing.
it just becomes a
And
next.
so now, exactly, so now not believing in that thing actually now comes at a personal detriment to yourself.
Yes. That's a great
And
point.
that's going against the very nature of how humans have grown to evolve. Humans are incredibly social and have incredibly depth emotions, not to just have them for fun. In my opinion,
For
they
survival.
are an evolutionary survival technique, right? We live together. We don't live alone. We are always worried about being ostracized by the group that we think we belong to. It is something we fear deeply. That's why we see bullying consistently in little kids. They find the outlier and they point them out, and they because it brings them together to go
common
look at
enemy,
that.
yeah.
Hey, you're not like us. Get the fuck out. Like it's just what we do. It's like some weird sick thing that we do. But so I get it. I get that it could be so hard to challenge those ideas when you're immersed in a city, a family that only believes in that.
For sure.
So
It is cool to see the huge divide, especially people our generation, us millennials, that have completely 100% opposite political opinions of our parents. Like there is such a huge difference in the average sort of millennial viewpoint and the, you know, Gen X baby boomer. Uh,
yeah, no, there definitely is. There definitely is in a lot of ways.
so
It's quite interesting, and I assume they'll probably be the same for the 2 generations away from us.
yeah. So this was an experiment, right? This was our first time doing this. I really enjoyed talking to you about this. I do think that, like you said, we picked a topic just coincidentally that was so deep, that just is so. There's so much more to the puzzle that we could, you know, we would need 10 episodes.
Yeah, we could do like a 2-month series on it. Personally, I'm not that interested in it to do that, but it's like it literally could be done. Though.
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening, we sincerely appreciate you, and we really do appreciate your feedback. Let us know if this was even interesting to you, if it was intriguing to you, or if you guys were like, you thought this was too tinfoil hatty or whatever it was. Because like Sebastian has mentioned before, and like we keep mentioning, is, you know, we're figuring this out with you guys, right? Like we're just dumping it out there and seeing what resonates. So as always, I appreciate you guys listening.
And yeah, everyone, I appreciate you. Next time, I don't know what the next podcast will look like. Maybe it's a different
knows?
topic that we explore.
Who knows?
Who knows?
That's
Who actually knows?
that is the
That's
beauty
the cool thing.
of being here this early, is you are witnessing like true growth. Like you are witnessing real like discovery.
Exactly.
We're like those little
Yeah.
turtles on planet Earth that just get plopped on the beach and we got to find our way back to the water.
Yeah, no, for
We're
real.
deep in the sand.
Just, what this is going to be today and what it could be in 2 years is who knows, really. So I appreciate you all.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us
Sayonara.
anywhere that you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you like watching, it's always on YouTube. You get to see our beautiful faces, and we'll keep the clips coming and keep the content coming. So see you guys next week. Peace.